All right, what's up, everyone? This is episode 18 of Bodybuilding 365 podcast. I have on my good friend Mina Estfanous. He's one of the guys from the local gym, Signature Fitness in New Jersey. Great guy, great bodybuilder, and just I thought it was a good thing to have him on and just talk about what got him into bodybuilding, the reasoning behind, it, and just kind of his progression in the sport and what he wants to do in the future with the sport. So, Mina, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I appreciate that very lengthy introduction. I'm
Hey,
flattered.
just made it up on the spot. It was good though. I'm glad it came out well, one take. But how you doing? How's the off season? How's training? How's everything?
Good, dude. I mean, right now I'm pulling back just because appetite was kind of shot and I couldn't really eat that much. And to be honest, I'm just a naturally fluffy guy. So once we got to the point where I just started gaining more fat than actual quality tissue,
Yeah.
we decided to we being my coach Chris Tuttle and I we kind of decided to pull back the calories, reset appetite, and go from there. I mean, training is still great. I have to say, I'm getting stronger in certain lifts,
Mm,
and other ones are at least maintaining, which is good. You know, when you pull back and you still have training performance high, as long as you're managing your volume and your fatigue, I think it's good. So overall, I'm
yeah.
happy.
Yeah. Definitely not a bad thing. So one thing I really want to get into is basically your whole background, whether it be sports or whatever it was, because usually I feel like the common thing is like we're like, oh, I played football and I really like to work out, and now I just don't play football anymore. Now I just work out. So kind of what made you go into fitness or bodybuilding specifically?
I mean, I was a pretty fat kid my whole life. Pretty big on the big side. Was bullied a lot. And it's not just, I say this not because I want people to be like, oh, it's all right. Like, have some pity for me, but it's more just
Yeah.
to show like I played football in high school. I really liked working out. I did when we worked out together as a team. But to be honest, playing on the actual field, I wasn't very good. I'm not going to tell you I was like starting this and starting
Yeah.
that. No, I wasn't that good. Um, I broke my shoulder in football, so that that kind of scared my family away from letting me play football.
Yeah.
So I just went into the fitness avenue there, and that was back in high school. So I graduated 20, and I just went throughout, kind of like always gaining and losing. I was a very fluffy kid, right? So I would just
Mm,
lose, and get into like this skinny fat phase where like I looked good in clothes, but I was still like petrified to take my shirt off.
yeah.
Um, but then afterwards I would just rebound because like physically I was changing, but my mindset was always the same. I always had that really unhealthy urge to binge.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
friends, man, back in the day, like we used to be together and just like we just eat. We'd shut down Chinese restaurants, Chinese buffets, like it was nothing. Like to the point where we'd get kicked out of some, dude.
Really?
There was one time I was at a Chinese buffet in Saddle River over here in Jersey, and the Japanese chef was like working on these couple rolls, and like as soon as he finished, I literally went and I was just like, oop, took the whole thing, and he just like got so mad. But I mean, yeah, it's just my around food. Like, and every time we went out with my friends, we just would go eat. Endless this, endless that, all you can eat
Yeah.
this, all you can eat that. And it was fun, but it was horrible for your health.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I just went into that yo-yo effect throughout. But what really got me into fitness was just I really liked going to the gym and having that sense of accomplishment. So like going and finishing a workout and I became almost obsessed with just being better.
Yeah.
And it was very early on where I'd bench whatever, a plate on the bench or whatever for 10 reps, and I just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And then you always make mistakes, so I'd try to get to two plates like just right off of one plate.
Yeah.
And you'd fail, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
I
all
mean,
done that.
it was
Yeah.
just it was just it really, I guess my fitness journey, which I hate saying, really stemmed on just being really fat, like throughout, I would say, a good 20 years of my life.
Hmm.
And then just realizing that I needed to make a change.
So that was towards the end of high school then when I'm assuming when football was over and
Yeah.
um So what kind of flipped the switch where you wanted to go just from working out, just enjoying that, to basically wanting to get on stage? Like, what was the like main, I guess, reason for it? Because
I
that's a
mean,
big jump.
I, it's a good question. I mean, I always looked up to bodybuilders, right? I always looked up to those big guys. And, a lot of people would look at the wallpapers I had on my phone or whatever of like Jay or anyone really. And they'd be like, ew, that's so big, And it
Yeah.
was just that, I guess it's just that mentality that you look at something that you probably can't achieve, but you just looking at it like, geez, like it's something to look at,
Yeah, it's something you idolize. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, after high school and throughout college, I like bounced like crazy. I would go from 245 to 170, 245 to 170, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Because I really liked the fat sandwiches in college. So just made sure I tried all of them, and NJIT. So, it was just that. And then I guess really what flipped the switch was COVID. COVID to me was a blessing in disguise, I have to say, because being trapped kind of in your house, not being able to do much, and that first day that they announced there was going to be a lockdown, I literally left the house, went to like 3 different Dick's Sporting Goods, got a squat rack, a bench, a whole bunch of plates and weights because I knew
Yeah.
like I wanted to work out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but COVID in of itself, like kind of taught me like mentally, I was unstable when it came to like depression and things like that. And I know it affected many people. I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being trapped in your house, I mean, and not go out, it F's with most people. Um, but at least to answer your question, after COVID, I kind of had like a new mentality in terms of dieting. I linked up with Chris actually during COVID as well, right before or maybe right during COVID. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but before that, I had a coach too. He was like just a kind of like a beginner coach kind of thing. Um, and when I linked up with Chris, he kind of really like. I always tell him this is just like he's a big pivotal part of why I love bodybuilding and why mentally I changed because he instilled in me like, dude, look, like you need to change mentally before you can change physically.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing. And a lot of people nowadays, you can lose all the weight you want, right? Or gain all the weight you want. But mentally, if you're not sound up here, you're either going to get back to where you were and worse, or you're just never yourself rationally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's, sorry to cut you off. It's
No,
it's one of those things, like even the professional influencers or bodybuilders, like they can have, obviously the professionals for a reason. They can have all these great physiques and do well, but then sometimes they're suffering behind the scenes because they have the physical part, they've excelled at that part, but mentally they're just so far behind that they're either in par with us or below, and that's just killing their career. And that's like the one thing that I think stuck out with what you said, is that if you don't have that, then you're almost good as nothing, because at some point it's going to debilitate you back to like level one per
yeah,
se. It's
I
crazy.
agree 100%. And like going back to the social media point that you put on, it's like people, 99% of people only share their wins, right? Or
Yeah.
share their positives or share their good pictures. You mean you could take 200 pictures at the gym and you're going to post one because the
Yeah.
other 199 you don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Highlight reel.
really common human nature, right? Like it's like yeah, exactly. It's a highlight reel. So you're never going to show your losses or what you're um subconsciously thinking about. You're just more or less just going to show what you want people to see. So
Yeah. And I think that it's tough to show your losses and show like the battles you're going through, but when you do that and just trust that, your friends, your family, your fans, whoever, whatever level you're at, that people are going to recognize that that's real and that you're just being open. And that's when you see the guys like Fuad, like Chris Bumstead, like Terrence, who excel in that social media aspect, because they're just, whatever they feel, they talk about it.
yeah.
There's no holding back. And they're one of those guys, just like Justin Shire. They're open on Instagram, on YouTube, whatever. So when you meet them, you're like, oh yeah, you're exactly how I expected to be. You're not shocked by these like two-faced people. So
Yeah,
um
I mean, I'll even go to that too. And I said like Chris was big on like why I chose bodybuilding, but also I don't know if you remember if you were following him at the time, Luke Sandow
Yeah.
was a big reason as well, because him and Fuad started that podcast,
Mhm.
especially, and they kept through it during like those tough COVID times. And that really helped me mentally too, because I was able to like still kind of pursue that bodybuilding knowledge kind of thing with how they were talking.
Yeah.
And then, rest in peace, Luke, but I still have him as my wallpaper because he was huge on really bringing me there, because, when he passed, mentally, like I was still struggling as well. And when I learned that he was the one struggling as well mentally, but on during the podcast and things like that, he was so happy, and like he would make me laugh like I was just like his best friend or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know the guy. So that was another big reason for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I remember I used to be able to not be able to. I used to watch some of the podcasts here or there, but then with COVID, you start watching random things on YouTube down the
Yeah.
wormhole, and I saw like some random episode with him with like the brick background, and I was like,
Yeah.
let me see what this is. And then yeah, same thing. I got hooked to it. Um, but yeah, that I mean, as you know, and everybody knows, watching those guys, they're so knowledgeable, obviously because where they're at. But even some guys like Ben who aren't even pros, they just know so much because of the experience they have with the guys that are around or just coaching in general.
100%.
Um, but and going with the coaches, I know you talked about Chris um, right before or during COVID, you kind of linked up with him. But how did that process start? Because obviously it's payment, so it's kind of a decision you have to make. Because that's where I'm at. I have Alex as my coach now, but who knows what happens in the future if he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But how did you kind of make that decision? Did you look at his Instagram, see his clients? What kind
Yeah.
of went into that?
Yeah. I mean, I remember actually watching his interview with Fuad on the channel, and I listened to it, and I was like, dang, this guy, like, he knows a lot of stuff. And and obviously, like, there are a lot of coaches out there that know a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
It's just the fact that A, they can execute, and then B, they understand their clients in a safe manner too. So it's like this guy was so big on health, while I've heard other coaches not really that crazy about health, just pushing their athletes to the ground.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him because I was torn between him, and I'll just say, like, it's not like they're gonna ever watch this, but Dusty Hanshaw and
Yeah.
and Ben Chow,
Yeah. Yeah.
between them as well. But I just went with Chris because he was just like the way I saw he carried himself, like, it was very admirable, especially on Instagram. Like, you could tell, like, he was a no bullshit kind of guy. Like, he was just like, it's just
Yeah.
what you see is what you get. And I'm not saying that Dusty or Ben aren't, but in my opinion, I shot for it. So I went with him. I started with him, and like he could tell that like I had been doing this for a while, but I was just like mentally still not there, like, in terms of the bodybuilding world, right? So in the beginning, especially, we were like, it was always up and down, and like I was still under that, like, I was very married to the number on the scale. So if
Mhm.
I ever fluctuated, even due to like 0.24, I was like, oh my God, man, I'm trying everything I can. Like, I can't do this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he helped me too, like with my thyroid function. Like, I got blood tests and stuff, and now I'm on a prescribed thyroid medication. And it's just because through him, and he really helped me mentally. So that's kind of where it started. And then when we started from 2020, I have to say, I linked up with him, I think, in April of 2020. It took me from April all the way to November or October
Oh
of
wow.
2020 to really, really change my mindset. I mean, like, look, you're programmed for 20 something years of your life, it's not going to happen overnight,
Yeah, it's hard to break it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to say you flipped the switch, but at the same time, that switch is just changing ever so slightly day by
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember actually, I went on a vacation to Boston, I think in September or October. Dude, we took pictures there, like, like we were effing around and going to bars, eating. It was good, really good food there.
Mhm.
And then just my friend, I have this picture on my Instagram. Like, you have to scroll down. It's been a while. But my friend took this picture of me, And I saw it and I just looked at myself. I was like, dude, I'm wearing a double XL hoodie. I'm like spilling out of the hoodie. I'm disgusting. Like I looked at myself, I was like, this is gross. So then and I remember I messaged Chris, I emailed him when I came back with the check-in. Of course, I was like 7 pounds over because I just stuffed my face there. I had
Mm,
no self. Um, and so I was like, dude, let's do this. Like, and what's funny is that when I had linked up with him in March, in my like kind of application thing, I told him it's my dream to step on stage, and he posted this a while ago when I like a couple days before I stepped on stage. But he was like, I told him it's my dream to step on stage, but I know I'm very far from that. And his words to me were something like, "We can make it, but we have to change mentally." So, I mean,
yeah.
and just to kind of get the story going, then from November of 2020 or October of 2020 all the way to August of 2021, I was dieting hardcore. Only had one cheat meal a week, never missed a meal, never ate over whatever I was supposed to. It was basically a prep within a prep, a
Mm,
prep within a diet kind of thing. But
yeah.
I was at least allowed a scheduled meal off. I was eating a good amount of food, and then here and there, he would, through his knowledge, he would bring the calories up, bring the calories down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I'll never forget August 2021. I told him like, look, man, like there's a couple shows coming in, and like I don't think I'm ready, but what do you think? He's like, dude, we can do this in 12 weeks, 100%. And when he told me that, next day, prep started. I went out for sushi that night, had a
Yeah.
couple rolls, and the next day, 12 weeks, no meals off, but really hard dieting. And I'm not saying this to blow smoke up my you know what, but
Yeah.
um, it was hard. It was the hardest thing I had to do in my life, but also the most fulfilling, 100%.
Might as well while you're talking, I might as well show you. You mind if I show your Instagram?
No, dude,
Let's see.
come on.
There we go. Let's see how long. Hold on. Down.
That was a couple days out. Um,
Yeah.
3 days out, 4 days out. That's when we started carbing up.
Looking good, man. Let me go back a little more.
Yeah, you have to go back.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, show this one. 1 week out. Yeah.
Yep. And if you want, actually, if you go to, I want to show everyone my starting point of prep.
Oh, the real.
No, it doesn't. It's not a real. There's a side by side down there. There's a
Uh,
couple side by sides you'll see.
is it? mm,
No, that's the off season one. You just got to keep going. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So that left was the start of prep when he told me that I think you can actually do this. And then the right was I think 2 days out. Yeah, 2 days out.
Yeah. 2 days out. Yeah.
And the difference was only really 13 pounds,
It's
but it was
crazy.
just, yeah, it was definitely a good time. Um, for sure. I was really happy with this.
Yeah. I mean, obviously posing helps too, but
But
13 pounds,
yeah,
it's crazy.
thank you, man.
Um, so you keep talking about like how you communicate with them. It seems like a lot. So is it kind of like a bi-weekly thing or once every 2 weeks, or how does he do that with
For
you?
check-ins,
Yeah, for check-ins and
well, it depends. At first, we had set check-in days, so it would be like Tuesdays and Saturdays, and that's actually where I learned my check-in format too. But I guess we'll get to my coaching a little later.
yeah.
But that I have to be honest, I learned a lot from him, and I told him this. He does like set check-in days, so he'll tell me, all right, let's do Tuesdays and Saturdays for a bit, and it's usually because Saturdays were my set cheat meal days, when I was allowed once a week.
Yeah.
So of course, like you want a check-in that morning because if you get it the next morning, it's artificial,
Gonna be different. Yeah.
So that's how he worked, at least for before prep. I think during prep, he kind of would it depends on the give and take, right? Like, so if he gave me 2 high carb days in a row, he would want a picture the morning of the first day and the morning of the second day. It was very hands-on. He's very hands-on. And
Yeah.
I think the last 2 weeks or week and a half, I was checking in every morning. Like every morning I would check in with him.
Oh wow.
Um, and I would get a new diet sent every morning. There was one time I think he was at the doctor's or something. So I sent him my normal check-in, whatever. And he literally texted me. He was like, yo, I'm about to be at the doctor's. Are you going to send it soon? I'm like, take your time, dude. It's fine. So whatever I sent it to him. I did my cardio and stuff, and I'm literally making meal one, thinking that he's probably not going to change anything because things look the same.
Mm.
And then he sent me a new diet, and I'm like, scrapped, and just throw everything
Try
away.
it out. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the guy lived in Connecticut, and then I think now he's in Texas. But like, even show day, I felt like he was literally there. You know, like I was sending him voice notes. He was sending me voice notes
Yeah.
every hour. So
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's like the only I guess negative thing you can say. Like he's not in person with you, but
yeah,
a coach that is every day the last week or two. I mean, that's if they're not there, that's the next thing you want.
yeah,
So that's really good. I mean, most coaches won't even they'll say like if you're a week out, they'll do like, oh, every other day or this and that. But guys like that, I mean, I wish he's not unpopular in terms of like exposure, but I wish he was more popular just for that reason
yeah,
itself.
yeah. And at the same time, it's like, there are those popular coaches out there, and I'm not speaking as if like I have much of a stance to stand on.
Mm.
But sometimes the most popular ones aren't the ones that you should probably go to. So
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they're too popular where they have and they take on too many clients that they have to in
yeah,
order to maintain those clients, like kind of siphon who to prioritize.
100%.
Which it sucks, but if you're one of those clients they prioritize, then you're in luck. But let's kind of want to go into how you, like you said, you took some things from Chris Tuttle, basically how you template your coaching. And basically I want to know like how you went from being, I guess, not bad mentally, but not
It
as
was pretty bad mentally.
superior.
It's
Okay, so bad mentally to being on a good stable level, competing at your first show, and now you do mostly lifestyle coaching, right?
Yeah, as of now, I'd like actually to say this because I know my clients are going to watch this.
Yeah.
I'll only do a competitive client right now if I've been working with him for a while as a lifestyle.
Mm,
And I generally do not really want to take any competitive right now, mostly because I'm still in the middle of like learning.
yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna shit anyone. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I've only had one prep myself.
Yeah.
Um, and personally, I feel like until I have more experience with myself and with others, with other avenues of learning, I'm not gonna take any competitives.
Yeah.
I refer them out, but lifestyle is what I usually or generally focus on.
Yeah, lifestyle definitely. There's no due date. Prep
Yeah, yeah.
in a
Well, there
show.
there
If
are
you mess
some
up,
like a wedding or
wedding. Yeah, yeah.
I have
That's
a few
true.
guys that are like, dude, I want to look shredded on this vacation. I'm going with my girl. I want to look shredded. I'm like, I got you, dude.
Yeah,
But
like even there, you have a little more leeway because if you mess up on a Monday, they're going Friday. You can. They're not
yeah,
going to be messing up that
it's
much
not
where
like we're
you're.
peaking for something,
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
not taking water out, going
Yeah,
crazy with all that
nothing
stuff.
crazy like
Um, so I know you're looking into or doing basically now that John Jewett kind of training for coaching.
that. Yeah,
How's that going?
dude, it's great, man. This guy John, and actually Chris is the one that recommended it to me. He like has so much knowledge and like he like relates it to like real world things. And what's crazy about this course is that he logs all of his own stuff. So you'll see his prep from like his Tampa Pro prep and what he did, and then he'll show his off season, and then he'll show another prep, and
Yeah.
he logs it. He's like so detail oriented, like down to like the skin caliper measurements per morning, and showing like yeah, it's crazy. Like I can't imagine myself doing this right now, but
Yeah.
like he'll show you, okay, waist was this many centimeters, chest was this many centimeters, and then he writes, okay, and he has a diary, so he says, okay, today this I felt this, so I did this, because he coaches himself, um and he also coaches his wife too, so her logs are there. But
Yeah.
I think I'm on like course 3 just because I'm trying to do this at my own pace.
Mhm.
But there's like 7 or 8 courses, something like that, or modules. And that's where he's like really going in depth. And I feel like this is what I want to do in order for me to actually start taking on competitive clients. Because I mean, who better to learn from than John Jewett? This guy's like a
Yeah. Yeah.
plethora of knowledge. So
Yeah. He's
it's
one of
going
those
really
guys
well.
too. Sorry to cut you off. Like Guy Sisternino, he has every single notebook that
Yeah, yeah,
he's every single meal he's eaten, training, this and that. And I think that maybe not to that extent, but if there's some sort of logbook, whether it be just even if it's just how you feel, because you're gonna have your diet in your, in your camera roll or whatever,
Yeah,
or in your emails. So you're gonna know, all right, I felt like crap on this day. So you're gonna have some sort of guide. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know how guys don't. I mean, some guys are just genetic freaks, but I don't know how guys don't really kind of log anything at all. But I mean, I'm sure Nick Walker, he doesn't log anything in the gym, but I'm sure he does some sort of internal
yeah,
logbook that
100%. I
you
feel like,
have to.
yeah, and I feel like at that level, you're so in tune with your body, you just know, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and and plus, like going back to the email thing, um, when you check in or when I check in, I tend to like kind of speak to myself, right? Because I feel like with check-ins, especially, you need to be as descriptive as possible. You don't have to tell me that, like, last Sunday I had 3 grams over on rice, and you know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
stupid. But like at the same time, being informational, be like, okay, yesterday I had a lift and I actually missed on this rep on this set that I usually get, right? Or it's like, oh, this morning I woke up and I was extremely hungry, or the other day I went to sleep and I was extremely full, or I woke up a couple times during the day sweating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So during the night sweating. I mean,
Yeah.
those things, like, you can look back at those check-ins too and kind of use it as a log. So, and plus, like, learning from someone who's more knowledgeable than you, I think is very key. So like
Yeah.
if you go back to a check-in and you send a check-in and then you see the response of a new diet, then because of what you said and what he sees,
Yeah.
he had to up the carbs or lower the carbs. So it's always that, like, you have to learn through experience. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times nowadays people do one prep that, like, they didn't even look that great in, and then they don't even meal prep themselves. Like, they don't actually have a set meal
Yeah.
plan, just eat
Yeah.
whatever. And then all of a sudden I see on Instagram, I'm coaching, I have a new website, sign up, I'm selling 4-week
Yeah.
plans. Like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that goes into going back to like the whole check-ins thing, that like, changing the diet. Like if you don't say something, then that could elicit a diet change or needs to elicit a diet change. Why is the coach going to send you a new diet, even though you're
Exactly.
going to need it? If you withhold information, that could be as simple as I went to bed hungry, or I went to bed, depending if it's off season or prep.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing, because if you don't say something until 2 weeks later, you just kind of missed out on something for 2 weeks. But like I'm gonna go into this. Alex and Andre, when I do my check-ins on Saturdays, we send in like the previous week's weight, my energy, sleep, lack of focus, what else? Water, dietary changes, digestion, and then like my final thoughts or anything. And I'll say like, oh, my lower back's tweaked, so I couldn't do this or that, digestion's off, whatever it may be. And
Mhm.
then Alex is really in charge of the diet, and he'll go into it like, all right, well, has it gotten better? Has it changed? What's going on? What elicited it? And it's one of those things that it can't just be, this is how I look. Okay, you look good. It has to be a conversation, or at least it can't just be a, you send a message, they send one back, and then you go on. It
Yeah.
should be some sort of 10-minute conversation.
Yeah, it's like a discussion, an open discussion.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't get the diets that I see too that are like, here's your 12-week diet.
yeah,
Weeks 1 to 4 is here.
yeah.
4 to 8 is here. 8 to 12 is here. I'll see you on show day.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
I can't imagine. You know what I mean?
That's like the first red flag you should see.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like I know for me, I have a fast metabolism, so like, and I don't really mind being like starving hungry, but I can also eat 5,000 calories every day
Mhm.
for 4 months straight. So if Alex and Andre were doing my prep for like my off season, if I didn't tell them I was hungry, they'd have no idea. And I'm eating 3,000, 2,000 less than I should, or a
Yeah.
thousand less than I should. So it's like, it's like everybody knows this, but then again, we still see it
Yeah,
where there's no
feedback.
set diet.
Yeah, feedback is just so important, like
Yeah.
very important when it comes to these things. Any coach or anyone out there that is helping you and doesn't take your feedback into account. Of course, there's some feedback that you have to funnel through. There's some shit that you have to get through, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can sometimes hear that they're hungry, but you then also ask the right questions and you can tell that it's not hunger. he's just craving a cheeseburger or something instead of the chicken and rice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll get a check-in where it's like hunger's a 10. And I'm like, this man is eating more calories than me. I'm like, okay, like why? Why are you hungry? He's like, oh man, I had my chicken and rice out and my friends, we were at Applebee's and they had wings. I just wanted those wings so bad. And I just had the chicken and rice. And I'm like, dude, you know,
That's just
like,
a desire, not even.
yeah, it's like that goes back to what we were talking about before on the previous podcast. It's just really being mentally weak at that point, you know? So
Yeah. It's like you didn't give in, but it was like killing you that you weren't able to have those wings. And it's like, it's wings. It's not a
and
big
you
deal.
have to understand it's a choice, right? Like
Yeah.
no one's forcing you to diet. No, I'm not. If someone
Yeah.
told me if you told me you had a couple wings, I'm not gonna drive over to your house and punch you in the face. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a choice, and with choices come outcomes. I won't even say consequences, just outcomes. If you have that cheeseburger and fries when you're not supposed to, or you don't have it planned yet, um, you know, there's going to be a different outcome than the time that you stuck on your plan and had your meal off when you were supposed to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like I again, I don't say consequences or repercussions, but you are changing the trajectory of your path with the choices that you make.
With the
So
plan. Yeah. Yeah. No,
exactly.
and that's what people don't. I feel like if people were to think of that in the moment, they'd like switch, like, okay, never mind, it's not worth it. But they just
Yeah.
think food A, food B, I want B, but I have to have A.
Yeah.
So but that's, I guess, hopefully that happens when they're younger, so they can have I mean, we're both younger,
Yeah.
but it's like I feel like younger people are getting into it sooner. Yeah, sooner than like you really don't see that many like, or not as many like 28-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds getting into it. I feel like you see more like, oh, I'm doing my first show. I just turned 18. I just turned 17. And like, I feel like that discipline is getting built into them sooner, whether they have like a mom or dad that was a bodybuilder, or they just are obsessed with, Jay Cutler, just one of these guys like that. So I'm hoping that the trend is going in the right direction. But as we both know, we see a lot of downward trends in the gym.
Dude, I can't even tell you what you just said. I've done it a million times, man. Like I have been that person that
Yeah.
fell off plan so many times. And I'm not even, again, not trying to make myself something bigger than I am, but a lot of people nowadays tell me like I'm one of the most disciplined people they will meet. But I tell them, dude, it wasn't always like this. Like I didn't come out the womb like, give me chicken and rice, like
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
else. Mom, put away the breast milk. I need chicken, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, like that's why I started out with talking about high school, because throughout high school and college, I was always on diet, but like it'd be like a Monday through Thursday thing, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday would hit, and I'd just break. And for me, it was an all or nothing mentality where I would have like a bite of something. I'm like, it's all ruined now. That's it. It's
Yeah.
over. And like I would black out, and then 10 minutes later, I just had 10,000 calories, like easy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the kitchen is empty. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
But again, I just go back and I'm like, I've been through it, right? So I understand. So I go back to my clients, and it's like a lot of people ask me like, why do you take on these younger guys? Like, I have a good amount of like 17 or 18-year-olds. And it's not because like I think that I'm going to be their role model and I'm going to mold them into like the perfect bodybuilder and I'm
Yeah.
going to put them on the Olympia stage. Obviously not. But at the same time, I was in their shoes. I was in college, and you were probably the same way. You were in college and you're still in school. Still in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've been there, right? And it's like good to like, I wish when I was that age to have someone who's gone through or is going through what I'm going through and is able to give me that advice, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm Mr. Grandfather, like best advice in the world,
Mm.
but I'm giving you what I think. Like it's like, hey man, like for example, we just had an Orthodox Easter, right? So I'm Orthodox, so our Easter's just a different calendar.
Yeah.
So we're a week later than the normal Catholics, Christians. Um, so I'll tell you, years and years passed, and I would diet on Easter. Like I would legit just eat out of Tupperware, and I wasn't in prep or anything. It was just me dieting. Because again, it was that all or nothing mentality.
Yeah.
Now I gave every single one of my clients at least one meal off for Easter, you know? And it's not because I want them to like me and stay with me because I give them good food, but it's because like you have to give and take, right? You have to realize that these are choices, and as long as we are within our own kind of restriction of, I'm not going to make this an all day thing of eating CC's pizza all day, you know,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
what it is. So going back to what you said, it's really, we have to think in the moment. It's, if I have this pizza in front of me, you know, I feel like in the next 5 minutes after I have the pizza, I'm going to feel really guilty, you know. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that Chris instilled in me. He's like, you need to not have any guilt. It happened, you move on, you
Yeah.
know, like you feeling bad about something, you fell off, you did something you weren't supposed to, looking back at it and like wallowing and being so upset about having extra calories or whatever. It's just freaking food, man. Like you didn't just
Yeah.
murder someone, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's not that it's something you have to take into consideration, but it's not that life changing where you can never make it
yeah,
up again.
yeah, you didn't just rob a bank and get caught.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's a slice of pizza. Just move on,
yeah,
and don't do anything special. Don't add extra calorie cardio. Don't go keto for the next 3 days because of that pizza. Just get back on plan, get back on
yeah,
consistency, and that's it. You know. Sorry,
yeah.
I went off on a tangent there, but you know,
It's all good. It's all good. We are both thinking the same thing, so it was good. But it kind of goes back when you said that like you gave your clients a free meal. I immediately thought of John Meadows saying like sometimes you need to go have a free meal with the wife or
yeah,
friends or whatever, and it can't be, every Friday night we go to Applebee's and have, half apps for 2 hours straight. But if it's a graduation, it's someone's birthday. I mean, one meal off
yeah,
in
yeah.
moderation is not going to kill your I mean, prep, you're not going to do it, but kill
Yeah,
your off
that,
season.
that's the thing. It's, you're
Yeah,
not prepping, right? So if you're in prep, it's a different mentality, 100%, because
exactly. Yeah.
it's a limited time thing. You know, it's not going to be the rest of your life, because we all know prep is not sustainable. Like you can't prep for
Yeah,
your whole life. Impossible.
exactly. Yeah.
You know, so as long as you're not doing something like that, it's just, why not? As long as you're within your own restrictions and you're mentally sound. Like you're not going to you're not going to have a cookie and then just feel so bad about it that it just causes so much stress to your body that it's like it's worse, you know,
Yeah.
just because you're thinking about eating the cookie. So
And I think too, I think once once guys find like the cheat meal or cheat whatever they want that like still settles well, then they can go back on plan better. Like in the off season, I just do my own diet because I'm just very basic chicken and rice, beef and rice. That's pretty much it.
yeah,
And I can have a whole pie of pizza on a Saturday and then go trade legs on Sunday. Like I can have a pint of Ben and Jerry's, doesn't upset my stomach. But some guys, they have to like recognize that if they have a intolerance to dairy or something, all right, well, don't have a non-dairy food or non-dairy dessert, and then just stay away from that so you can actually work out the next day or not feel like crap, not get bloated and blow out your waist after 2 or 3 years of doing
yeah,
that. So you have to, especially when just in general when you're starting, you have to find a way to minimize the setbacks, even though if you want to have a cheat meal and have some sort of obstacle, because there are good ways to fail, but there's ways to make it even worse. And that's what I feel
yeah,
like you said, the all or nothing thing. If I have a pizza, I'm like, oh well, I was supposed to only have like 3 slices. Well, I might as well have some cheesy bread too. Like,
yeah.
well, no, recognize what you did and then just don't have any more, move on, just
And you
move
find
on.
what works for you. You find what works
Exactly.
for you, right? Like I know personally my go-tos for my cheat meals are foods that don't really kill me the next day. Like if I went out, for example, Super Bowl, I know if I have nachos and like all that like bar food,
Yeah.
I feel disgusting for the next day. Like it'll affect my appetite the next day. But I know if I have a couple rolls of sushi, maybe some like Chick-fil-A or something like that,
Yeah.
you know, you find what works for you, and just ride it till the wheels fall off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes a little bit of experimentation, and that goes with training, with diet, everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then right after that, after you have that experimentation phase, like just stick to it. That's it.
Yeah. And there's nobody that gets what's the word? bored of, well, prep. This, I gotta tell the story. Before I was at the doctor's and I had to write the date down, and I was like April, and I was like, "Ugh, what's the number for April?" And I was like, oh yeah, 4, yeah. I was like, oh my god, and the lady was just staring at me, like waiting for me to give the paper back, and I was like, I'm not gonna explain this to you, but just 1 second. God damn it. But what were we saying? Oh yeah, like no one's gonna get bored of eating a cheeseburger from Five Guys or Smash Burgers. So if that settles well with you, like you said, just ride it to the wheels fall off. It's gonna help you. It's gonna give you the sodium, the fat, all that stuff. So you just gotta find, like you said, what works, and just that's how we see guys like Ian Valier. They do the same thing. They do it for 5, 8, 10 years, and then we always wonder, oh, how they do that in that time period. Well,
And how
they
they look like that, right?
exactly, yeah,
Even Justin Shire, like look at this guy.
yeah,
He like turned pro and everything in like 3 years, I think, and like
yeah,
completely transformed it just because he immediately, like he talks about this, he found what worked for him,
yeah,
everything, food, training, and he just literally logbooked everything, you know?
yeah,
And I mean, the proof really is in the pudding. So if that works for
yeah,
him and it works for most people, obviously I feel like he is a little genetically gifted, but you have to be to be
yeah,
able to, like,
yeah. You have to have a
um,
little bit.
but even if you're not genetically gifted, it will still benefit you. Like it's just proportional. That's all.
Yeah, and everybody goes to like the gear and everything, but it's like if gear did not exist, he would still Justin, Ian, those guys would still be they would be proportionally bigger than us regardless because of their genetics, worth ethic, food, this and that training.
Yeah, the top
Like
15 at the Olympia, if gear didn't exist, would still be the top 15 in Olympia. 100%.
exactly, yeah.
No changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you take gear out doesn't mean you can't train hard, doesn't mean you can't eat hard. But
Yeah, a lot of people think that you pin your butt once and you're gonna look like Ronnie Coleman, so it's cheating. It's like okay.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. It's I mean, you can see guys like Ronnie when he was younger, when he was supposedly natural, and he was just like a big guy. You just everybody knows that one kid that just does like he shows up to like twice a week to the gym. He just has like cut shoulders and this and that, and you're
Yeah, I
like,
get so jealous, dude.
it's like
So jealous.
it's insane. But yeah. Well, I don't want to hold you too long. It's been 40 minutes, but I
Thank you, man.
appreciate you
Thank
coming
you
on,
for having me
man. Of course, I'm gonna include you, of course, into like the bigger discussions when we just shoot the shit and stuff with Alex
on.
and Andre, whoever.
Love
But
to.
anything else you wanna plug before we end the one?
No, I mean honestly, thank you again for having me on. I really like the conversation. It's just like I don't really have to want to plug anything. You guys can check me out on
Yeah.
Instagram if you want. Greg already checked me on Instagram, but it's more just I guess my final message as if like I'm the Pope, but
Yeah.
really just if you guys want to change anything about yourself, it doesn't have to be fitness. It doesn't have to be your diet or how the way you look, the way you feel. You have to change mentally. Like you have to be able to change that way of thinking and just realize that like maybe you need to talk to someone, right? I had to talk to someone.
Yeah.
um again, you can't change yourself physically or materialistically or whatever the case may be without being mentally sound. So
Yeah.
that's my big message. That's my final Pope regards.
I'm not gonna add anything to it. It was a very good message, but appreciate you coming on again, and I'll see you guys next time.